Go. Keep going.
So when I was a young boy, I got lost all the time. Every time it seems like my mom took me shopping, I would be looking at this cool thing, and I expected that my mother was just going to pause and she was going to let me observe what I was going to observe, and then she would wait and we would keep going. But it never went that way. She had a life to live, and so she would get down the road a bit and realize that I wasn't with her anymore. And so a lot of times, every time we went shopping, it seemed my mother would always get lost, and it was really irritating. And so one time we were in a shopping center, and you know, I was looking at something or I was playing. I like to play within those racks of clothes, and I would get in the middle and I'd hide and see if anyone could find me, and no one would come back for me, and I'd be like, oh, nobody misses me. So one time I was completely lost. I couldn't find my mother anywhere. So I went to the security office and I said to them, listen, I need you to get on the speaker and call my mother because she's lost.
Oh, man. Your mother's lost.
My mother is lost. And that was very typical of me. Everything was about me. The whole world revolved around me. And so it was my mother that had the getting lost problem, not me. So that's a story that tells a little bit about who I am.
Oh, and don't go away without telling me the peacemaker story.
So, I remember when I lived in California and I was in seventh grade, and I would always make friends, because we moved to a school and it was very cliquey. People in California, they lived with each other all their lives, and we were strangers. We moved into their neighborhood, and we were kind of a novelty because we were new, but for the most part, everybody knew each other so well that they'd formed into cliques, and they didn't talk to each other or to people outside of their little group. And it seemed like I always had a way of upsetting that, because I would make friends with people in different cliques, and that it made the social order mayhem. And but I hung out with a lot of really interesting friends, and they would kind of come together, and it sort of started to be an interesting thing in seventh grade. You start to realize that the world is big, but it's also very small. Everybody knows everybody else. And I think when growing up in the military, we didn't have experience of growing up in a small town where everybody knew everybody else. But so I remember that there was one time, there was a guy, and he was quite short. He was shorter than me by at least a foot. And he was an eighth grader, and his locker was under mine. And so one day, I was trying to undo my locker, and it was taking some time. And I finally got it, and just as I pulled it, I hit him right in the forehead with the locker. And because he had snuck, out of my field of view, he had snuck in front of me and was opening his locker, which was under mine. And so I basically hit him in the forehead with the locker, and he got really angry. And he was like, I'm going to mess you up. I'm going to, after school, fight is on, 3:00, I'm going to kick your ass. And I really didn't like getting in fights, and so I was like, okay, so there's a fight at 3. I didn't think anything more of it. I would have forgotten about the fight, except that when I got home from school, my sister was really concerned, and she came and she said, hey, I heard that you're going to fight this guy after school, and you can't do it. Don't go. And I was like, no, I have to go. It's like, that's what you do. You set a time for the fight, and you go to the fight. You show up for the fight. And so the fight was going to be at 3:00. And so I got all ready for the fight. My sister kept telling me, don't do the fight. Don't go. Just, it's okay. You can live with the badge of dishonor from never showing up at the fight. And I was like, no, I'm going to the fight. So I went, and I got there really early because I was prepared. I wanted to get my ass kicked real, untimely. And so I went there, and there were some kids playing basketball. And so I started playing basketball with those guys, and we're all playing basketball. And this opponent of mine, he shows up, and it's not quite time for fighting. It was about maybe 10 till, and I was like, hey, you're early for the fight, cool, shoot some hoops with us. And he's like, okay. So we sat all together, and we all were playing basketball and having a wonderful time. And the time of the fight, 3 o'clock, it came and it went, and we kept playing basketball and talking and getting to be friends. And by the time we finished our basketball game, he said, I don't want to fight you.
Oh man.
And it's always how things would happen in my life, is that by inviting people in, by listening to them, I've always been able to kind of get out of the big conflicts.
Well, thank you very much. I love your stories.